Hey guys, I wanted to give a little shout out to Daniel Dumbrill. I apologize if I mispronounced his last name. I think the YouTube algorithm was on his side because I discovered him randomly. I wasn't searching. That's what happened to me 2 years ago, but unfortunately I'm not on YouTube's good side anymore. But anyways, Daniel Dumbrill talked about how anti-Chinese YouTubers, we all know who they are, and Daniel Dumbrill, he's been in China for many, many years. He's just trying to analyze them, and one of the key things he says is these people, these anti-Chinese YouTubers, by the communities they've hung out in, they're not seeing the real China. They're not living and hanging out in the right areas to kind of get a maybe representative view of China. And it's a really great thing he said. Daniel mentioned, imagine if someone from China, let's say, went and lived in a trailer park in America for 10 years and never really went to the cities or to maybe the more upper echelons of the farm communities, etc. And then they went back to China. They're like, yeah, America is just trailer parks, rude people, blah, 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 whatever you associate with trailer parks. So that kind of analogy is sort of what a lot of those anti-China YouTubers have done. They went to China. They probably didn't know much about China. They landed in a community or in a neighborhood that probably wasn't sort of filled with high social economic class people or higher educated people, etc. The jobs they took didn't get them to meet famous university graduates, etc. Right, if you're going to teach English, every single little city, tier 10 city, countryside, whatever, is going to need an English teacher. So you don't know what this ability to teach English is going to land you, where it's going to land you in this world, in China. If you're going to work for a tech company or something, or you're going to work something that's really high skilled, then you're going to interact with kind of the best of Chinese society, young people, etc. And I wanted to give you some stories because I like telling stories. You see, this type of scenario actually happens in America too. A lot of you know I'm in LA. LA is a very segregated place. There are areas that are completely black, there are areas that are completely white, there are areas that are completely Hispanic, and just because it's on the West Coast, there are lots of areas that are completely, almost like 80% Asian. There's this place called San Gabriel Valley. It's a county, and if you go even more east, you'll hit places that are just so Asian. And the thing about San Gabriel Valley is it's at least a driving distance, and if you really tried, you could take a bus, you could take a train to the non-Asian parts of town. But if you go even more east, you're so secluded, it literally takes like 2 hours to drive there. So most of those people, they never leave. So one time I was hanging out with a bunch of these people, just randomly. You know, I like to hang out with random people. I just happened to be with some of my white friends. So we were going on a hike, and all of us were hiking, we're having a good time. Eventually though, my friends, they leave, and then I hang out with the Asians. And they just kept asking me this question, which took me by surprise for a while. They were like, how'd you meet these white people? Where do you meet white people? I'm not used to that question because I've always grown up in neighborhoods where you throw a stick and you'll hit a white person, right? I've never grown up in all white neighborhoods, thank goodness. I think that would make me kind of a little different, maybe a little scarred in the head. But I've always grown up in neighborhoods where white people were the majority because that's how America is, right? White people are like 80% or something of the population. But these people, the reason they're asking me that question is because they probably rarely ever see white people. In school, there's very few white people. In their immediate vicinity, there's very few white people. In their shopping malls, there's very few white people. They work in that area. They're not going to go to lots of white people areas for work. They literally never see white people. So in their minds, it's like, yeah, we don't meet white people. How does Jerry see and meet and make friends with white people? It's such a funny thing, but that's their reality. That's how their parents grew up. That's how they grew up. So they're just in a kind of situation where they rarely can meet white people even if they tried. So their perception of America, their interpretation of problems, etc., is very different than mine, or let's say someone from Compton or someone from East LA. I lived in Philadelphia for a while too. And what I learned there is a lot of the neighborhoods in Philadelphia are actually pretty segregated, especially North Philly, that area. A lot of those kids growing up in the ghetto there never go to Center City. They've literally spent, let's say, 18 years of their lives, and they've never gone to Center City. So they've never seen Philadelphia that people think of when they look at the skyline of Philadelphia. Isn't that crazy? They've only seen it from a distance. So their reality, their interpretation of America is going to also be different than, let's say, someone grown up in the suburbs of Philadelphia. My point in giving all these examples, these analogies in America, is that no matter where you are, who you spend time with, what you do, etc., is going to dictate and influence how you see the world. So going back to these anti-China YouTubers that our man Daniel Dumbrill was talking about, they barely can speak Chinese. They like to pretend they can speak Chinese, but any person who knows Chinese, even Daniel was saying, yeah, I can tell they can't really speak Chinese. Well, so they can't really speak Chinese. I don't know about the younger one, but the older one's from South Africa. You can tell he's got this little bit of a superiority complex. So their attitude already going into China was kind of, it's probably not open-mindedness, and they didn't speak the language, and they were working jobs that didn't help them meet, for lack of a better, higher quality people, or whatever word you use to describe people who, let's say, have more wealth or more education or whatever. And then they're going about 10 years doing their motorcycle thing, half sex padding, half looking down on the residents. Who do you think they're going to attract into their lives? Imagine if I didn't grow up in America in so many different cities and spend time with so many different people. I've had friends who are black, I've had friends who are white, I've had friends who are Hispanic, I've had friends, every single type of immigrant. You know, I've gotten into conflicts with Brazilians. I've always had issues with Brazilians growing up in low-income housing. Brazilians, man. But then you get older, you start appreciating them more, because Brazilians, their sense of humor tends to be very kind of just what our current PC culture hates. Brazilians have that like non-PC sense of humor. And, you know, I'm all about free speech. So now I think about all those Brazilians I used to have problems with, and I actually really like all the shit they used to spew. The point is, if you don't hang out and really get a glimpse of the entirety of whatever culture you're in, you're not going to be able to represent and talk about that culture. And you guys know I'm kind of censored a little by Google and stuff like that. I got a little too controversial in the past. And I want to encourage this guy, Daniel Dumbrill. You seem like a guy who's very open-minded. You seem like a guy who's very reasonable. So to all my audience members, I guess maybe I'm passing the torch over to him a little bit. I'm not saying I'm going to stop making videos. It's just, since I'm not favored by the algorithm anymore, and Daniel seems to be favored by the algorithm, go to his channel, watch him if you want to understand China more. Of course, please watch me share my videos. But if the algorithm keeps messing me up, then go follow our man Daniel. He apparently even has a brew pub in Shenzhen. So anyways, guys, hope you like this little reflection. Daniel, looking forward to your comments, and I'm looking forward to having dialogue with you. You and I should just bounce ideas back and forth. You toss an idea out, I'll respond to it. I can toss an idea, ask for your opinion, etc. All right, guys, this was Jerry. Talk to you guys soon.